My fiancé faked his death and disappeared for 5 years, only to return and announce he was marrying a nurse. Sarah has taken care of me for 5 years, and she's carrying my child. I can't let her down. If you truly love me, you'll understand. Marcus told me, don't worry, I can't give you a title, but I'll still leave the Vance's affairs in your hands. Sarah can rest easy as Mrs. Marcus. When I was about to move out, my fiancé panicked. How can you leave? You're my woman. He didn't know that a year after he left, I had already married someone else and had a child. Marcus walked in, his arm around Sarah's waist, their posture intimately close. Grace, please move to the guest room. Sarah is pregnant and needs the best room. Sarah's voice was soft and weak, edged with a sob. Marcus, how can I do that? This is a mess. Grace's room. I don't deserve it, forget it. I'll just leave. Marcus hugged her tightly, a pained expression on his face, then frowned at me, his tone accusing. Grace, be reasonable. Sarah is heavily pregnant and can't handle stress. You have no right to kick Sarah out. We were only engaged, never married. You are certainly not Mrs. Marcus. I set down the company reports in my hand, my gaze calmly sweeping over both of them. I haven't said a word, yet you two are putting on quite a show for yourselves. I turned to the housekeeper. Martha, please pack up all my things. After speaking, I picked up my phone and quickly sent a message to Ethan. Send a car to Rosewood to help me move. Seeing this, Marcus's face showed satisfaction. You're still my reliable Grace. Don't worry, the Vance's matters will still be managed by you. I've always trusted your work. I know it hasn't been easy for you to keep the Vance afloat these past 5 years. You've worked hard. I'll give you a raise. I frowned, my tone cool. No need. I've already received more than enough. After all, I was now a shareholder of the Vance. Marcus paused, then smiled dismissively. He pulled a velvet box from his pocket. Inside was a massive pink diamond ring. Sarah, this is for you. Sarah gasped in surprise, covering her mouth as tears instantly welled up. Marcus. Thank you. I'm so happy. My gaze fell on the pink diamond, and my brow furrowed again. This pink diamond was the engagement gift he had given me years ago. While I had intended to return it to him, he shouldn't have just taken it without my permission and given it to someone else. Marcus looked at me indifferently. Since we're not getting married, I naturally took the ring back. Grace, you've always been generous. Surely you won't get angry over such a minor thing? I shook my head gently, my voice edged with a sneer. No need. I have something better. Ethan's wedding ring for me was far more precious, with a blue diamond that was a full 12 carats. I simply didn't wear it often for convenience at work. Just then, Martha, the housekeeper, walked over. Ms. Grace, everything is packed. Are you moving to the guest room now? No need. Take it directly to the car waiting at the main entrance. Marcus suddenly reacted, his face changing drastically. You're leaving? You're moving out? I picked up my handbag, my tone calm. Yes. Since you and I have no connection anymore, why should I stay here? I should have moved out after your death, but I stayed for the Vance's stability. Now that you're back, this manor naturally returns to its original owner. Marcus lunged forward, grabbing my wrist, his voice urgent. How can you leave? You're my woman. You know I can't live without you. I forcefully shook him off, stepping back, my eyes cold. You managed fine for 5 years without me. Why are you suddenly indispensable now? Don't worry, I'm only moving out of this house. I'm not leaving the Vance. There's a shareholder meeting tomorrow. Remember to attend on time. I turned to leave, but Marcus blocked me again. Even if you want to avoid suspicion, there's no need to rush. Sarah is newly pregnant and needs care. You staying here would be perfect, so that was his plan. I didn't wait for him to finish, bursting into laughter. I dedicate myself to your Vance family at the Vance all day, and then I'm supposed to come home and be a free nanny for your pregnant wife? Marcus, what do you take me for? Your slave? Marcus was exposed, and his face instantly darkened. Grace, how dare you speak to me like that? Who allowed you to have such an attitude? I met his gaze, refusing to back down, my voice turning colder. Isn't it true? 5 years. And you never even asked how I managed to get through it. I took a step closer. Perhaps you should first consider why you faked your death 5 years ago. 5 years ago, the Vance and Kingston families were clashing over market territory in Eastwood. The family was steadily losing ground to the Kingston family. Marcus's uncle, Ethan, was forced to return from Europe and retake control of the Vance. Demoted, Marcus refused to accept defeat. He secretly led men to seize territory at the waterfront but fell into an ambush. After jumping into the river, he returned to Vance and frantically sought my advice. "Grace, it's all over now. Those Kingston family madmen won't let me off the hook. I'll fake my death. As long as everyone outside thinks I'm dead, they won't chase me anymore." I knew Marcus's character. He always chose to flee when faced with difficulty. "Marcus, calm down. Uncle is back. He's in a meeting with the board members. They'll figure something out. You're the CEO of the Vance. If you die, the group will be leaderless. Our partners will panic, and the employees will become restless. The family will strike us relentlessly before Uncle can even establish himself." But paid no heed, quickly packing his things. "If I don't leave now, I'll lose my life. Grace, help me keep this a secret. I'll contact you later." He left, and it was for 5 years. No news, no word. As the executive, I reluctantly took on the responsibility. I didn't get a single good night's sleep, was assassinated by the Kingston family over a dozen times, and still bore several scars on my back. It took a grueling year before Ethan truly took over, and I could finally breathe a sigh of relief. Now, with the situation stable, Marcus shamelessly returned. Hearing me mention the past from 5 years ago, Marcus seemed to hit a sore spot, his voice suddenly rising as he tried to cover his guilt with bluster. "Grace, don't push your luck. I wasn't around those years, but it was my uncle, Ethan, who managed the Vance. You were just an assistant. How hard could it have been for you? Besides, did the Vance family pay you a meager salary and bonus? You were just doing your job, what you were supposed to do." I looked at his flustered face and found it utterly ridiculous. Yes, the Vance family paid me, so I worked my heart out to save the Vance and stabilize morale. I have a clear conscience regarding that job, but taking care of your wife and pampering her with tea and soup is not within my job description. I'm not earning that money. Marcus was completely enraged by me. He lunged forward, grabbing my wrist tightly. "I forbid you to leave. Do you hear me? If you dare to step out that door, I'll fire you immediately." I winced in pain and frowned, but the smile on my face grew wider. "Marcus, you can't fire me." Marcus laughed arrogantly, as if he'd heard the biggest joke. "Ha! I can't fire an employee? Who do you think you are? Since when did you call the shots at the Vance?" His other hand immediately pulled out his phone, angrily intending to make a call. However, he suddenly froze. He had no idea who to call. In 5 years, he had long been cut off from the core operations. All his orders from 5 years prior had been relayed to various departments through me. A flicker of embarrassment and panic crossed his face, followed by a cold, blustering sneer. Fine. You've certainly grown bold now. When I officially report back to the company tomorrow, the first thing I'll do is punish you. You're so disobedient. Talking back to your superior. I'll transfer you to the janitorial department to scrub toilets. Let's see how arrogant you are then." Though I'd always known he was heartless, I didn't realize he was utterly malicious. Hearing those words, a sudden chill ran through me. "Marcus, I've dedicated myself to the Vance for so many years, and you want to send me to scrub toilets?" Marcus thought I was afraid, and a triumphant look of being in control reappeared on his face. "Scared now? It's not too late to regret it. Go back to your room immediately. Write a 10,000-word letter of self-reflection. Then go to the kitchen and prepare a calming and nourishing soup for Sarah. Apologize to her properly, and make sure she's comfortable. I might consider retracting my order." I was about to explode when the door suddenly opened, and a little boy, about 3 years old, excitedly ran in. He dashed forward with open arms and hugged my leg tightly. "Mommy, we're here to pick you up." That single word, "Mommy," struck Marcus like a bolt of lightning, freezing the muscles in his face. "What did he call you? You actually had a child with someone else?" I bent down, picked up my son, nuzzled his sweet-smelling cheek, and then turned to look at Marcus. "Didn't you know? In the 5 years you were dead, you didn't pay any attention to what happened to the Vance, or what happened to me." Marcus recoiled as if struck, taking a step back, his pointing hand trembling. "How could you marry someone else? You were my fiancé." I couldn't help but laugh. "Marcus, stop playing this affectionate charade with me. Just look at Mrs. Marcus behind you, carrying your child." Marcus choked on my words. his face turning an unsightly shade of green then white. But that's different. I haven't married her yet. But you even have a child that big. The smile on my face completely faded. My voice calm. It's been 5 years. Marcus. 5 whole years. And you were completely out of touch. From the moment you decided to use a fake death to escape responsibility, abandoning me alone in this mess. We were already over. I hugged my son tightly, taking one last look at the house. I didn't take anything you ever gave me. From now on, we have no connection whatsoever. With that, I held my child and turned to walk toward the car waiting at the entrance. Marcus watched me leave, overwhelmed by a huge wave of loss, anger, and panic. He seemed unable to accept this reality, and even more unable to accept that I had never been indispensable to him. Grace, you bastard, get out! All of you, get out! Who cares? Do you think I care? He smashed everything left in my room to pieces. Sarah's face turned pale with fright. She tentatively tried to step forward and hold him. Marcus, please, don't be like this. Calm down. Marcus spun around abruptly, his eyes bloodshot, and roared at her. Shut up! Get away from me! Sarah flinched at his unprecedentedly furious face, all her grievances caught in her throat, not daring to utter another word. The next day was the Vance shareholder meeting. In the Vance's top-floor conference room, Marcus confidently seated himself in the second chair on the left side of the long table. Shareholders and executives gradually entered, each displaying complex looks of astonishment upon seeing Marcus, who had been missing for 5 years. Greetings, everyone. It's been a while. I know you're all surprised. My accident 5 years ago was false news, a strategy to mislead our opponents. Now that the crisis is over, I've returned. The room was silent. No one responded, only a few awkward coughs. As the meeting host, I walked into the conference room with a composed stride. The moment Marcus saw me, he immediately frowned. Grace? What are you doing here? I've assigned Sarah to handle today's meeting minutes. This is no place for you. Get out! I acted as if I hadn't heard him, my gaze falling directly on the chair he was occupying, my usual seat. George, who was sitting in the third seat, immediately stood up when he saw this. Ms. Grace, please take this seat. His triggered a chain reaction. The others at the table subtly shifted back one position. In an instant, Sarah, who had originally been at the very end, was completely pushed out of the conference table's range. Standing awkwardly in place, Sarah immediately pouted, clutching her barely visible baby bump, and complained pitifully, Marcus, should a pregnant woman have to stand all this time? I'm so tired. Marcus looked annoyed. He pointed at the seat George had just vacated. Sarah, come here. Sit down. Sarah immediately flashed a triumphant smile and swayed her hips, about to walk over. However, I remained standing steadily in place, showing no intention of moving, blocking her path. Sarah's face turned red with anger, and she stomped her foot, whining. Marcus, look at her. She doesn't respect me at all. You even said yesterday you'd reassign her to toilet duty. Marcus immediately nodded and scolded me. Did you hear that? Grace, report to the janitorial department immediately. Otherwise, I'll fire you on the spot. Uncle broke into a cold sweat, quickly stepping forward to explain. Mr. Marcus, Ms. Grace is now the Vance's Vice VP of both the marketing and product, and she's a shareholder holding group shares. Marcus froze, as if he hadn't heard clearly. What? A shareholder? Since when? Uncle wiped his sweat and replied. It was about 3 months after your fake death. Ms. Grace took charge during a critical situation. Thanks to her, Marcus impatiently cut him off. All right. I've heard enough to last a lifetime since I got back. It's always about how amazing Grace is. He turned to me, his eyes filled with jealousy and suspicion. Grace, you really are something. In the years I was gone, you did a great job with public relations. Didn't you? Everyone's on your side now? I met his gaze, a cold smile playing on my lips. What? Regrets? Regrets for walking out 5 years ago, only to return and find that things are no longer as they were? Marcus flinched, his face stiffening, but his tone remained firm. How could I regret it? If my fake death strategy hadn't made the Kingston family complacent, you wouldn't have had a chance to breathe. Otherwise, the Vance would have already. A cold, authoritative voice came from the conference room doorway, interrupting him. Otherwise, the Vance would have already collapsed, wouldn't it? His uncle, Ethan, had arrived. Everyone immediately stood up. Ethan's gaze swept calmly across the room, finally resting on Sarah, who looked out of place, and he frowned slightly. Alex, the executive, immediately stepped forward and gestured to Sarah. Madam, this is a Vance shareholder meeting. Unauthorized personnel, please leave. Sarah instantly burst into tears of indignation, pointing at Marcus. How am I unauthorized personnel? I'm Mrs. Marcus. I'm carrying the Vance family's future heir. How dare you treat me this way? Ethan snorted coldly, his voice stern. An heir? Thee is in good health, and my elder brother is still alive. Since when did an unborn child become the heir to the Vance family? Marcus, control your woman. Marcus instinctively feared his uncle and immediately explained. Uncle, she didn't mean it like that. She's just too anxious, and spoke without thinking. He quickly whispered comforting words to Sarah, coaxing her to leave. After reluctantly left, Marcus seemed to find an outlet for his frustration, immediately turning his anger back to me. Uncle, Grace has no right to attend this shareholder meeting either. She was nothing more than my executive, and she's a treacherous woman. Shortly after my fake death, she hooked up with some other man. How can someone with such poor character be a vice VP? Now that I'm back, she must give up this position to me. I merely smiled at his words and said nothing. The surrounding shareholders also displayed various complex and mocking expressions. Marcus was baffled by their reactions and grew somewhat exasperated. What are those looks for? Do you think she was my girlfriend before? So you're reluctant to touch her? Let me tell you, I'm married to Sarah now, and Grace is nothing. Ethan slowly extended his hand and firmly, naturally, clasped mine, his voice commanding. She's your aunt. Now, Marcus's pupils constricted violently, and he froze in place. I cooperatively wiggled my left hand, displaying my and Ethan's matching wedding rings on our ring fingers. Marcus suddenly understood, lifting a finger to point at me, his voice sharp and piercing. Grace, I left you to look after the company, and you actually got into my uncle's bed. Are you that desperate for a man? My brows instantly knitted together, a flash of disgust in my eyes. But before I could speak, Ethan beside me moved. Slap! A loud slap landed squarely on Marcus's face with such force that his head snapped to the side, a clear red mark instantly appearing on his cheek. Marcus, clean up your language. Marcus clutched his face, looking at Ethan in disbelief. He dared not retaliate against Ethan, only yelling defiantly, Uncle, you know perfectly well. She used to be my fiancé. She was mine. Ethan nodded expressionlessly, his tone calm. I know. So what? You were dead, weren't you? Marcus desperately shouted, trying to salvage the situation. I faked my death. It was fake. It was a strategy. Ethan let out a faint yet highly sarcastic scoff. A strategy? Who approved your strategy? Did your father know? Did the Vance's elder board members know? Or are you, Marcus, alone capable of representing the entire Vance and deciding to use playing dead as a strategy? Marcus was speechless. In his desperation, he suddenly pointed at me. She knew. Grace knew. I told her. She can prove it. I smiled softly, a smile filled only with mockery. Yes, I knew. That's why. The day after you told me you decided to fake your death and run, I sent you a message breaking up. I pulled out my phone, casually waving it. What? Didn't you receive it? Or did you receive it and choose to selectively ignore it? For 5 whole years after that message, we had no contact whatsoever. Marcus, by what right do you assume I'd still be your fiancé, ready to be summoned or dismissed at your whim? Marcus froze. 5 years ago, he fled without time to treat his wounds. Later recuperating in a private hospital abroad, he had indeed received the breakup message I sent, but he scoffed, believing I was just throwing a tantrum, and that when he returned as king, I would naturally cry and beg him to come back. After all, deep down, he always believed that I deeply loved him and would wait for him. Marcus's face was pale, but he still tried to make excuses for himself. You resented me for not taking you with me, so you turned around and seduced my uncle. Is that it? You deliberately sought revenge on me. This was utterly absurd. It seemed he wouldn't give up until I made it completely clear. Ethan held me back as I was about to stand, then rolled up his suit sleeve, revealing several ghastly scars on his arm. Revenge? While and I were fighting tooth and nail, you were hiding in a nurse's arms, being pampered. Ethan pointed at me. Her injuries are no less severe than mine. Her capabilities, her character, Make her worthy of many people's love. It's not your place, you cowardly deserter, to slander her here. Marcus was completely stunned. He looked at me, realizing I seemed subtly different. I smiled faintly, touching the bridge of my nose. My nose was broken and required over a dozen stitches. The face you see now was surgically reconstructed. Fortunately, the technique was good. It left no scars. Marcus opened his mouth, feeling only guilt and shame inside. He couldn't utter a single word. Ethan no longer looked at him, calmly sitting back in the main seat, his voice regaining its sharp edge. The farce ends here. Now, the meeting officially begins. I stood up to host the meeting, walking to the screen. The agenda for this shareholder meeting: the removal of Marcus from his position as Vance Vice VP. Marcus abruptly sprang from his chair, his face filled with shock and disbelief. Uncle, how can you do this to me? I'm the eldest grandson of the Vance family. I'm the rightful heir. How can you dismiss me? Ethan leaned back in his chair, his cold eyes lifted. When the Vance faced peril, you chose to fake your death and abandon everyone. For that alone, you are unworthy of this position. I remember clearly, you only had a knife wound on your back. Yet you were scared out of your wits, jumping into the river to feign death. But what about the men who went out with you? Not one of them returned. They all died. His voice suddenly rose, laced with suppressed fury. Marcus, since you took office, 15 bodyguards have died because of you. Dozens of men were severely wounded and crippled. You alone became a deserter. What right do you have to come back and demand a position? Who do you think you're accountable to? Marcus's face turned deathly pale, cold sweat beading on his forehead. No, that wasn't desertion. That was a strategy. Ethan slammed his hand on the table with a resounding bang, and the entire conference room fell silent. A strategy? Fine. Then tell me, what was the content of your strategy? After you left, how was the Vance's internal stability maintained? How were the Kingston family's counterattacks handled? Did you leave any plans? Any contingency measures? Did you even leave a letter or a message arranging things? Speak. Marcus was speechless, his eyes darting around frantically. I had no choice back then. Weren't you there? And George and the other board members? I trusted you all to pull through. Look, everything's fine now, isn't it? He said this as if it were perfectly natural. Ethan let out a cold laugh, his eyes filled with the utmost disappointment and disdain. Yes, thanks to us fighting day and night, thanks to Grace nearly losing her life, and thanks to the board members' painstaking efforts, we barely managed to salvage the mess you abandoned without a care. Does any of this have even a penny's worth of connection to you? Marcus? The group doesn't need deserters. You shouldn't have come back. Marcus completely panicked. He looked around the conference room, pleadingly, at everyone. The uncles who had watched him grow up, the executives who had once been deferential to him. Yet, every single person avoided his gaze. Some looked down at their tea, some were expressionless, and some even returned his gaze with coldness and condemnation. For the first time, he felt the bitterness of being abandoned by everyone. I calmly spoke again. Now, we will vote by show of hands on the removal of Mr. Marcus from his position as Vice VP. Those in favor, please raise your hand. Almost without hesitation, all the shareholders and executives, myself included, simultaneously raised their hands. Marcus looked at the assembled people, his last shred of hope completely shattered. A huge wave of humiliation, anger, and resentment instantly overwhelmed his reason. His face twisted as he shrieked hysterically, his fingers trembling as he pointed at everyone. You're all ganging up to isolate me, to exclude me. This company, I founded it, I built it up. Why can you just dismiss me? What right do you have? I expressionlessly pulled a document from my folder and presented it directly in front of him. This is the dismissal document personally signed by Chairman. He fully approves of today's resolution. Grandfather, Marcus stared intently at the signature, his pupils dilating. Impossible. This is absolutely impossible. It's you, Grace. You and Ethan must have teamed up to force Grandfather to sign it. What tactics did you use? I want to see Grandfather. I'm the eldest grandson of the Vance family. He can't do this to me. Marcus roared in fury, his face flushed red, facing his uncontrolled accusations. I showed no emotion, simply connecting to a prearranged video call. The screen lit up, showing a middle-aged man fishing. Marcus lunged at the screen, his voice urgent and tearful. Dad, You have to help me. Uncle and Grace are teaming up to dismiss me. They're trying to kick me out of the vents." William's gaze fell on his son's disheveled face, and he frowned slightly. "Marcus, I know about the decision to dismiss you, and I support Ethan." Marcus was struck as if by lightning, freezing in place, shaking his head frantically. "Why, Dad? Why even you?" "I'm your only son," William sighed, a hint of disappointment and weariness in his voice. "Precisely because you are my son, I cannot let you continue to bring shame to the Vents. You are fickle-minded, you run from trouble, and you cannot bear the heavy responsibility of the Vance family. I've already arranged another place for you. You'll spend 6 months at the leadership to properly temper your character." At the mention of the leadership, Marcus's eyes widened, and his voice changed pitch. "No, I won't go, Dad. Is that a place for humans? It's like a special forces training camp. I'll die there. I won't go." William's gaze suddenly sharpened. He scanned the people in the conference room, his voice rising. "Look at this conference room. Besides, every shareholder and executive here, which one didn't come out of the leadership? You got away with it back then, claiming acute kidney disease. Now it seems that soft-heartedness made you who you are today. This time, you have no choice." Marcus began to tremble. In desperation, he seemed to grasp at something, suddenly pointing at me. "What about her? Grace? Why doesn't she have to go? If that leadership is standard for Vance family executives, then she must go too. Otherwise, I won't accept it." I sneered inwardly, but my expression remained calm. Even now, he still wouldn't let me go. William directly shook his head, his tone resolute. "She doesn't need to. The real-world trials she's experienced are far more brutal. 100, 1,000 times more so than any simulated course at the leadership." Marcus was completely unable to understand and blurted out, "Real-world trials? What real-world trials could she have had? Just a few knife cuts and hospital visits. What's that? She's just a woman." William's face finally showed complete impatience. Too weary to say another word to his foolish son, he simply raised his hand and cut off the video call. Silence fell over the conference room. Marcus stood frozen, his face still etched with expressions of disbelief and anger. Just then, Uncle, the elder board member, sighed, his voice heavy. "Marcus, there's a lot you don't know about the years you were gone." That year, Ethan was surrounded by the Kingston family at the waterfront. There were over 100 of them, armed with weapons. Grace, 8 months pregnant at the time, strapped explosives to herself after hearing the news. She stormed the waterfront alone, bravely pulling Ethan back from a pile of bodies. Later, due to premature labor, she unexpectedly went into difficult labor on the way back, with no time for anesthesia. Grace bit down, and without any anesthetic, she had a C-section to deliver the child. That courage and resilience, risking everything for family, is enough to make even us old veterans, who've been through hell and back, feel inferior. Marcus was utterly stunned. He abruptly turned to look at me, his gaze no longer dismissive, angry, or jealous, but filled with shock and scrutiny. He seemed to truly see me for the first time, seeing the powerful, fearless soul hidden beneath my exterior. He imagined the scene, feeling a chill creep up from his feet. If it were him, he definitely couldn't have done it. He suddenly understood his father's words. "She's experienced enough real-world trials." The meeting ended in a suppressed atmosphere. Marcus, utterly dejected, stumbled out of the conference room first, like a zombie. Sarah, who had been waiting at the door, immediately rushed up to him, her face full of grievances. She grabbed his arm, tears instantly flowing. "Marcus, they all bullied me. My feet are aching from standing here, and they wouldn't even get me a chair. I wanted a drink and some fruit, and they ignored me. Do they want to starve me and our baby to death?" Boo-hoo-hoo. Normally, Marcus would have tenderly embraced and comforted her endlessly, but at that moment, his mind was reeling from the bloody past he had just heard about me. Looking at Sarah, who only knew how to whine and complain, a sudden, inexplicable irritation and disgust welled up inside him. Marcus violently shook off her hand, his eyes cold. "You can't stand for an hour? If you can't endure this little bit of hardship, how can you be a Vance family wife?" Sarah was utterly stunned by the sudden reprimand, freezing in place, even forgetting to cry. Marcus no longer looked at her. His gaze instinctively turned back, seeing Ethan and me conversing softly. Ethan naturally reached out, gently tucking a stray strand of hair behind my ear. his eyes full of affection. In that moment, Marcus was consumed by jealousy, regret, shame, and shock. Sarah followed his gaze, her eyes wide with shock. Her and your uncle? Grace, what a shameless woman. Marcus suddenly retracted his gaze, glaring fiercely at Sarah. Shut up. You have no say here. Sarah flinched, immediately falling silent. Just then, two burly security personnel in black appeared before Marcus, blocking his path. Mr. Marcus, please report to the leadership immediately. Marcus's heart abruptly clenched in panic. He subconsciously took half a step back. Now, the security personnel in black unceremoniously stepped forward, grabbing his arms, one on each side. Mr. Marcus, don't make this difficult for us. The member's order is, immediately, at once. Marcus completely panicked. He struggled desperately, breaking free from their grasp, then stumbled towards me. Grace, wait, just one question. Do you still have any feelings for me? Even a tiny bit? I stopped, frowning at his relentless clinging, and shook my head coldly. Marcus acted as if he hadn't seen my rejection, shouting agitatedly, I don't believe it. You saved me before. You went to the hospital for me. Have you forgotten all that? My face remained expressionless. I remember. So what? Have I saved so few people? Marcus choked on my words, his face pale, his tone tinged with a plea. Grace, I was wrong. Can't you just forgive me this once? You're not even afraid of death. So are you really so bothered that I simultaneously fell for someone else? It was just an accident. My brows furrowed tightly. I had completely lost patience. Stop bringing up that disgusting past. You're married, and I'm married. We each have new lives and children. This pathetic clinging is truly a disgrace. Marcus's psychological defenses seemed to completely collapse, and he screamed hysterically. I regret it, Grace. I truly regret it. I regret faking my death back then. I regret not daring to contact you for 5 years. I regret being misled by Sarah. My biggest regret is losing you. We both betrayed each other once. Let's call it even, okay? Let's start over. I'll go back and divorce her immediately. Beside him, Sarah trembled violently at his words, then shrieked in disbelief. Marcus, what are you saying? Have you lost your mind? Marcus, however, seemed not to hear her at all, his eyes fixed on me in a desperate plea. I shook my head, my gaze completely unruffled. No. With that, I stopped looking at him and signaled to the two security personnel. They immediately stepped forward, mercilessly seizing Marcus again and forcefully dragging him out. Marcus struggled, still roaring defiantly. Grace, you'll regret this. I'm the one who loves you most. Watching truly being taken away. Sarah finally snapped out of her shock and panic, muttering to herself, he's gone. What about me? What about me and the baby? I paused, looking at her calmly. You are his legal wife, the legitimate Mrs. Marcus. Of course, you'll return to Vance, take good care of yourself, and deliver the baby. Sarah immediately shook her head. I'm not going back. I want to be at the company. I'm an executive. I want to go back to my office. It seems she's quite fond of power. I almost laughed aloud, looking at her with undisguised contempt. Vice? Marcus has already been removed from his position. You are nothing now. As for me, I am indeed a vice, but I find you beneath me. Sarah's face flushed crimson, and she trembled with rage, choked by my words. Ignoring her further, I directly instructed the nearby security guard, escort Marcus out. She has no entry clearance and is not to be permitted into the group building without an appointment. The security guard immediately bowed. Yes, Ms. Grace. Sarah, furious, still wanted to cause a scene, but no one spoke up for her, and the security guard impassively stepped forward to usher her out. I heard that Marcus was constantly complaining and suffering at the leadership. Occasionally, I would receive update videos from the leadership. Marcus, covered in mud, was pinned down in murky water by the instructor, forced to do push-ups. Exhausted, he vomited violently. As soon as he caught his breath, the instructor would drag him to run laps. The young master who had never known hardship was finally getting a taste of it. Sarah's days weren't easy either, though she lived in the Vance, well-fed and clothed. It was essentially a house arrest. After all, despite her uselessness, If the Kingston family were to abduct her, the Vance family couldn't simply ignore it. They would have to rescue her. House arrest was the best arrangement. Sarah threw tantrums in frustration, but there was nothing she could do. 6 months later, Marcus returned, significantly thinner but far more spirited. Sarah had recently given birth to Lily. Seeing her husband return, she wept with joy, believing their hardships were finally over. However, Marcus simply threw a document onto Sarah's bed, his face expressionless. "The child stays with me. You take the money and leave. From now on, you and the Vance family will have no further connection." Sarah was utterly stunned. "Why? Don't do this. Marcus, didn't you used to say you loved me most? You promised you'd be good to me forever." Marcus abruptly pulled his hand away, a flicker of annoyance and self-mockery in his eyes. "That was a misunderstanding. I was wrong. And so were you. There's no point in you staying. My and grandfather will never acknowledge you. Take this money, and you can still live a comfortable life. Otherwise, you'll be trapped here forever. A Mrs. Marcus in name only. You choose." Sarah looked at his cold, resolute gaze and finally understood that all the tenderness and affection had been an illusion, a mirage. From beginning to end, she was perhaps just a tool he used to escape his past. Now, he no longer needed her. Sarah stopped crying and snatched up the pen. "Fine, Marcus. You're ruthless. I'll sign. Later." She tried to use the money to live the life of a socialite, but she had no financial acumen and quickly ran out of funds. She thought about using Lily to extort more from the Vance family, but the Vance family's legal team had already prepared countermeasures, and she didn't get a single cent. After had settled matters concerning Lily, he proactively sought approval from Ethan to go to Southeast and oversee market expansion there. He left decisively, as if eager to escape everything here. From then on, Marcus vanished from my life. When I gave birth to my second child, he merely sent an expensive gift through his assistant from distant Southeast. Without a single word, I heard he worked like a machine there, focused on expanding territory and eliminating rivals. His methods more ruthless and decisive than ever before. A few more years passed, and then news arrived. During a fierce clash in Southeast, Marcus and the Kingston heir confronted each other directly, resulting in an incredibly tragic conflict. In the end, both men perished, dying in battle together. It was said that before his death, he used his last ounce of strength to roar out a single sentence: "Grace, this time, I'm no deserter." After I received the news, I remained silent for a long time. Ultimately, I quietly attended his funeral as a Vance family relative. The once proud young man had, in the end, written the conclusion to his life in such a tragic manner. Later, Ethan and I left Eastwood and chose to return home. The past filled with conflict gradually faded, and order and law replaced the flash of blades and glint of swords. I dedicated more of my energy to charity, helping families and children harmed by gang conflicts. Ethan, meanwhile, focused on transforming the Vance family's businesses, legally operating transportation and entertainment ventures. All the grandeur and turmoil of the past had transformed into a faint sigh within the passage of time. Life, at last, became stable and peaceful. Thank you for watching this video. If you have any thoughts about this story, feel free to share them in the comments section. Here is Roses and Love, sharing stories about marriage and women every day. See you tomorrow.